I've been playing World of Warcraft since 2007 in the Burning Crusade, which is a sentence that sounds normal if you grew up around gaming and the internet at large, but sounds a bit crazy to say out loud. It really has been a while, around, half my life playing this game. It ran alongside my entire high school life and almost acted as a second life. I think I spent more time in Icecrown Citadel during Wrath than I actually spent hanging out with people in high school. And it doesn't even feel like it's this nostalgic thing. It just feels like World of Warcraft has comforted me through huge parts of my life. It held my mind captive for a long time. It was always there in the background, like this alternate home for me. Even when I wasn't playing, I was thinking about it, about characters I would be playing, the music, the zones, the overall aesthetic, thinking about what I would do the next time I logged in, and really just thinking about it in real life moments that had nothing to do with WoW. And that's how I got the feeling that it really had its claws into me. So when the WoW Midnight pre-patch hits, it doesn't just feel like it's new content. It feels like a new season is coming around. Like the bell is ringing, and, that's the bell that rings once every expansion cycle, and then suddenly you remember what it was like when you were playing the game, whether it was 10 years ago, or a year ago, or a month ago. And really, you could tell yourself you're above it, and you could say, hey, I'm an adult now, I have things to do, I have a life. But really, when you see the buzz start up, when you see your YouTube recommendations showing some of the new content, even if you don't think it's cool, your brain kind of does this thing where it tries to time travel. Like, you're not hyped just for the patch notes, but you have that possibility of a new world that's still just waiting there. And, that's what WoW used to be. It really felt like a game that I played. It was something that I lived in. It really had this mystery. It had the feeling of distance, this large world. It felt you could walk out of a city and get lost, like you were part of something massive and ongoing, whether you were relevant or not. It was really a world that didn't care about you, which is weirdly what made it comforting. And I think that's why MMO expansion seasons are so emotionally loaded for people. It's not just the release. It feels like Blizzard could really just come out with anything at this point. It's sort of a ritual. Like a good amount of people, older players, newer players, they kind of agree, mostly older players, they agree that they're going to go back to the place that raised them, right? If you grew up on WoW, you know what I mean. Like, your real memories aren't just the system of the game. Your real memories are the atmosphere of the game, playing with people, late nights, the sense of being somewhere else, the feeling of being held in a world that felt more coherent than your actual life did at the time. Games, especially WoW and MMOs, are meant to bring this system that's predictable and this sense of clarity that if you work at it, you're going to get a reward. So, to stick to the point, here's the thing I want to say, and it's kind of unfortunate, but I think it's also the truth that helps me in a way, is that World of Warcraft Midnight, or any expansion for that matter, will not bring back the world that I remember and the world that I miss. And it's not because that expansion is going to be bad. It really could be great. I feel like what Blizzard is providing for this expansion, especially housing, and the new Quel'Thalas, and all the revamped zones, it feels like something that's old is being revamped, and it really doesn't give the classic vibe, but it does make me remember what it was. Like, it's bringing my brain back to a time where World of Warcraft was really, really meaningful to me, even though it might not be as strong, but the same pull still feels like it's there. When I speak about this, I feel like I'm romanticizing it a little bit. But half of it was just escapism, and a lot of it was really just enjoying the game for what it was. I don't think it's much of like a spiritual journey or anything like that, but it did really have that real world feeling, especially when you're younger and you're growing up with the game. The problem is, you can't really retreat back to that version of yourself. You can't unknow what you know now. And you could feel this really, like I said, anytime a new expansion cycle happens, where you log back in the game, and it's technically different, right? Things have changed, patches have changed, the internet hype is different, right? Everything is really optimized instantly. Right away I logged into the pre-patch, you could see here, and somebody's already uploaded, which class is going to be the best for this expansion, who you should main, who you should play, and right away I'm getting sucked into that, and I don't even get to look at what's going on in the world. Not that the content that they're bringing in the pre-patch for Midnight is anything groundbreaking, but, everything does already feel like it's this workflow that you just remember exactly what happens, and you kind of get sucked back into that space. It kind of takes me out of the world, and it makes me think that WoW is this vending machine, and that's the nostalgia trap for me, right? It's not that nostalgia's fake, it's that it's really sharp. Your brain is showing you a picture of coherence, and then you look at your current life and you're thinking, oh, right, like I live here now, and I want to go back to this World of Warcraft, 2010 Cataclysm world. And Midnight won't do that. No expansion will really do it. And the trap for me is logging in and hoping that an expansion will resurrect your past, right? That it'll give that feeling back in my chest, right? When you step into a zone and you feel that the warmth and the scale and the mystery and all the things. And then when that doesn't happen, you feel a little cynical, and you kind of blame the game and that it's not going the way you wanted it to, the devs and the community, but you keep playing anyway, and you chase that feeling. I feel like all of us, especially if you're watching this video, have done that to some extent. And I think that's why it's important to pay attention to it. So what is the alternative there, right? So if it won't bring back the world that you miss, why come back at all? And I think that's because every expansion and Midnight could still be worth playing. It could still be a portal to this nostalgia and these great feelings, but only if you gate it a certain way, right? And I don't mean that you kind of step into this portal to like this new world and all the trailer, new expansion hype stuff. I really think that, it could be a doorway into deliberate living, right? So like, that when you do play World of Warcraft Midnight, you get back into that immersed world feeling, right? It's a very authentic feeling, and it's not something that Blizzard could patch into the game. It's something you cultivate yourself and pay attention to, and you have to really protect that in the relationship you have to the world and its purpose, right? You kind of put rules around it for yourself. You cannot expect the game to curate that feeling for you. And me personally, I definitely will be playing Midnight. You can see me playing the pre-patch here. It's a bit of a grind, just running around killing bosses and leveling up, but I'm not coming back just to get sucked into it, raiding and PvP. I'm really not trying to let World of Warcraft control my personal narrative or my identity, or have it be my MMO, or have it be a silent addiction thing where it slowly takes over my mind and then you don't notice until you're really getting deeply into it. As you can see, I've had this feeling many a time before. So really, for me to break it down, here are the rules that I'm trying to go in with for myself. The first is that I try to pick the reason before I pick the build, right? So like, not really trying to figure out what I could turn my, leisurely activity of that is World of Warcraft into a part-time job. I'm really trying to choose why I'm there, right? Like, why am I playing the game? Break that down. Is it the story? Is it the atmosphere, friends, the challenge of raiding or PvP? Is it that I want to feel that world wait again for a little while? You have to choose that with intent, because if you don't, you default to progress, and you might never reach that goal, right? So no matter how much your bar fills up, you may never feel satisfied. You could feed it your entire month and it'll still tell you that you're behind, right? The second rule for me is to choose a stopping point, right? So almost as if you have an adult version of self-control there, right? Because when you're younger, the danger is that you'll play 12 hours, kind of because you could, right? But now the danger is that you'll play a couple hours a night quietly and then maybe call that normal because it's not catastrophic. And then, by the end of the month, you're like, why did I sink so much time into a game I don't care about? So it must be meaningful for you, right? So like World of Warcraft could still be meaningful. It doesn't need to be this MMO addiction, right? The second thing is third thing is to set these limits, right? So you want it to be concrete and know that, hey, after I do this dungeon, I log off. After a raid, I log off, right? Once I hit this point, I'm good to go for the night, right? And you could feel satisfied. The fourth thing I try to do really is to protect the world feeling, right? So this is that, new world mysterious feeling that you want to get when you play a new MMO. I feel like in a game like World of Warcraft that many of us are very familiar with, that feeling is all but gone unless you try to find a way to create it for yourself, right? And you really want to try not to optimize the mystery out of your own experience. So for me, I do this, I intend to do this, and I'll probably upload another video talking about this. But for the first week, going into this expansion, fewer guides, fewer add-ons, as if, that's not going to be a problem anymore. Less just paying attention to the meta or what's good. Just give yourself permission to explore, right? And to get lost and to just be inefficient and not beat yourself up for it, and then let the world be bigger than anything you could potentially plan, right? Because the world really isn't authentic anymore in a way. You have to find that for yourself. You cannot expect it to be prescribed to you externally, right? So you need to know that sometimes the game isn't the villain. Sometimes the game is a mirror of your own experience. So you must be in control of how you play the game and how you experience it. And then that mirror is kind of a feedback loop, right? So in essence, Midnight, it won't bring back that world, but, there are certain ways to get that old world feeling inside Midnight if you stop asking the expansion to resurrect your past and to start using it to build something deliberate in the present. So for me, I know that I'm going to go in, I'm going to apply those rules, I'm just going to kind of let myself feel immersed in the world, but don't sleepwalk, and I'm going to try not to shut that down. And, if you're coming back to play the game, right, I'm not saying definitely don't play, right? I'm saying that you want to pay attention to these things. So, go find the world that you want to see out of World of Warcraft, because it's still in there.